Morning, my name is Shazia Khan, and this is the unit that we'll be doing today is Introduction to Law and Practice. And this is the final session we'll be doing, which is the assignment discussion session, as we've done all the learning outcomes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they are recorded and on Moodle for you. So we're just going to go through the assignment discussion, but before I go through the assignment discussion, I want to go through giving you a summary of what we did in the last 4 learning outcomes, so you have an idea of where we're going with this session. So the session Introduction to Law and Practice, we looked at learning outcome 1. We looked at understanding the structure of English legal system. In learning outcome 1, we looked at the introduction into history, historical general development, understanding how the law was developed. We looked at equity and how it worked, why equity was brought in and why common law was there. We looked at the concept of criminal law operation and burden of proof and comparison remedies in civil and criminal law. We looked at the differences between civil and criminal law and also looked at common law and precedent. We looked at equity, statutory law and equity and why that was brought about. We looked at doctrine of judicial precedent, ratio decidendi, and we looked at what the legislature, the executive and judiciary, what their role was within the UK Constitution. And we looked at the elements of an overview of the European Union and why the issue was the impact of Brexit. And we looked at differentiating the classification of the legal system and the impact on society, what law has on society, and examining the difference between common law and statutory law, and the withdrawal of the UK from the European Union. We also looked at how the roles of the legislature and the executive and the judiciary fit in with the UK's constitution and how they work together to build this constitution up. Then we went on to learning outcome 2, which was to look at understanding how Parliament passes an act of Parliament, a bill. So we looked at elements of the Green Paper and the White Papers. We looked at the process it goes through, the first reading, second reading, committee stage, Royal Assent and the House of Commons both, and in the House of Lords. We looked at the element of the process, what types of bills are there, government bills, private bills, public bills, hybrid bills. We looked at the functions and impact of passing an act, the role of the Law Commission in this, and looked at how the Law Commission works and what it produces, the importance of the Law Commission. We looked at delegated legislation, so we looked at the element of what delegated legislation is, how delegation works. We looked at the types of delegated legislation like statutory instruments, bylaws and orders in council. We then went on to look at limitations of delegation and looked at explaining the formal consultation process. So we looked at the Green Paper and White Paper. We looked at elements of stages involved in creating an act, which we went through in detail, and different types of bills and how they operate as well. We then went on to learning outcome 3, which looked at understanding the hierarchy of the courts. So looked at the appeal and the UK courts, how the UK system works. So the county court, the civil courts, and we looked at the criminal courts as well in line with that. And we looked at the Crown Court, the Supreme Court, Magistrates Court. We looked at the appeals process within the UK when it comes to the courts as well, civil appeal process and criminal appeal process. We then went on to look at key considerations in appeals. We looked at the work undertaken by civil courts, and we looked at the Civil Procedure Rules, 1998, CPR. We also looked at the allocation of claims in learning outcome 3. So we looked at small claims, fast-tracked and multi-tracked. We looked at examples of civil cases handled, and we looked at analysis of work undertaken by criminal courts. We looked at the overview of the criminal courts, functions of the criminal courts, and also looked at identifying elements of the criminal procedure and the impact of criminal courts on society. We then went on to learning outcome 4, which is to understand the roles in the legal profession. So we looked at the justices of the Supreme Court, Lord Justice. We looked at the element of solicitors, barristers, legal executives, paralegals, judges, clerks, and CPS. We looked at the interplay between the legal roles and challenges in the legal roles as well. We looked at judges in each court and the appointment process. We looked at the judicial training, judicial appointment, the work undertaken by magistrates in learning outcome 4, roles and responsibilities of magistrates, training of magistrates, examples of work undertaken by magistrates. We looked at the role of juries in the legal profession and importance of this. We then went on to look at the appointment and selection of the jurors and the role and responsibilities of jurors. We looked at advantages of jurors, and we looked at elements of training and the role for barristers and what the comparison to solicitors, and looked at ethical responsibilities in the legal profession for barristers and for judges and for solicitors. We looked at the CAB rank rule and the importance of ethics in the legal profession, and we went on to look at elements of the oversight boards and ethical boards within the legal profession and comparison of ethical responsibilities for solicitors, barristers and judges. So that was learning outcome 4. So that was quite a brief outline of what we've done in the session for learning outcomes. Now we're going to go on to the assignment discussion. As I've said, the assignment brief is available on Moodle for you to go on to. So we'll go through each one. So the unit aim will be to introduce students to the basic concepts of English legal system, as well as the UK's relationship with the EU and the changes as a result of Brexit. Students completing this unit will be provided with fundamental grounding in basic concepts of English law and the foundations of law. So the learning outcomes is to understand the structure. Learning outcome 1 is to understand the structure of the English legal system. Learning outcome 2 is to identify how Parliament passes an act. So we went through the procedure of that. Learning outcome 3 is to describe the hierarchy of the courts. And learning outcome 4 is to understand the roles in the legal profession. Assignment declaration. This is a really important element when we look at assignment declaration. So this is what you need to sign to confirm that the work you've done is of original form, and it must be signed for all assignments, and that the work you've done is your own work and that it's not being plagiarized. So you have, when you sign this, you are saying that you've read the plagiarism policy and you've read carefully and you sign in the declaration. So the declaration states that read and understand the college's guidance on plagiarism. You've clearly referenced your work with bibliography or reference list on sources, and you've fully referenced all and used inverted commas for text, and you've provided the sources and figures, and you've not made use of any other student's work, collusion, and you've declared that you've read the policy. So it's really important, and you've not used the use of AI. So this is really important when it comes to identifying your work, and when it comes to identifying that the work you've submitted is your work. So you are signing a declaration. It's available on that link there. You are signing this declaration to confirm that the work you've submitted is not plagiarized. It's all your work, own work, and you have not colluded with any other student's work. And this is identifying that, I will go through this, reiterate this throughout this presentation, so you're able to identify that this is your own work. You've referenced it. Make sure you reference. We'll go through the referencing system that you need to be using, which is Harvard system for referencing, and make sure you've declared that all the work is yours and you haven't taken work from someone else's work and put it as your own. If you do take something out of something, make sure it's referenced, it's identified there. Make sure you clearly reference your work, and make sure you clearly if you're reading something, make sure you paraphrase it in your own words. So what information needs to go on the assignment? So you need your name on it. You'll need your registration number on it. You'll need the tutor's name on it. The word count for this assignment is 2,500, and the date of submission and the unit level, which in this case is level 3 introduction to law and practice. So you need to make sure you've got this detail on it. And the reasoning behind it is that it's clear for the assessor who's marking it, and they're able to identify who you are, what you've done, what unit you've done, and when you've submitted the work, and also your details as well, your details of your registration. Plagiarism and collusion. And as I said, I'll be going through this, reiterating this to you all the time. Students must submit and complete work that is their own. Plagiarism is presenting the thoughts and ideas and words of another person as if they were your own. So collusion may occur when students' assignments are very similar and in some cases purely identical that we've seen to that of another fellow student. This is also amounts to plagiarism. Plagiarism is taken from seriously and students are strongly recommended to refer to the academic misconduct policy, which is available on Moodle. So you need to make sure you refer into that and have a read of that so you're able to understand what the policy says in regard to any sort of plagiarism or collusion. So at the start of the assignment, you need the following: table of contents. The font size needs to be 12. It needs to be 1.5 line spacing to make sure that the assessor is able to mark and read everything properly. Page numbers to be inserted because when you do the contents page, it needs page numbers there. And this is really important. It needs to be in the form of Microsoft Word format, not Google. And people have been submitting in Google because they do not have Word format, but you can use the free WPS Office and you can download it from that link that I've left there, free for you to use when you're doing your assignment. Do not use Google, please, because it makes it difficult to mark it, okay? Please use the Microsoft Word format. You need an introduction at the start, and your word count for this assignment is 2,500, and make sure you're putting all the assessment criteria in the heading. So we'll go through that a little bit more when it comes to talking about your tasks, okay? General information. The taught unit of this unit will be delivered at UK Versity Online. There are a number of texts related to this unit, which will be found on VLE. So the Moodle handbooks and briefing sheets and your assignment briefs are all available, and your recordings are all available, as I've said, on Moodle, which is the main virtual learning environment that is used for this course material. So you need to be going on to Moodle to get any sort of additional reading, refer to any sort of recordings that have been done, any sort of links that you need to use to help you do the assignment. Any sort of extra information will be on Moodle for you, so you need to be using the VLE. If you have any issues with Moodle, please email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. For the assignment brief, you are able to, oh, that's not this. Let's take that one out. This starts here. So task 1 of 2. Okay, so there's 2 tasks in this. So task 1 of 2 is looking at AC 1.1, which is learning outcome 1.1 to AC 1.5. So 1.1 to 1.5 is learning outcome 1. And then you're also looking at AC learning outcome 2, which is 2.1 to 2.4. So you're looking at understanding the structure of the English legal system. And then you're looking at identifying how Parliament passes an act. So these are the main elements for task 1. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. So what you're looking at is identifying them parts in task 1. So you're looking at identifying, making sure you're looking at the structure of the English legal system and also identifying how Parliament passes an act. So this is what you will need for using for learning outcome task 1, okay? So assignment brief and guidance. You are working for a law firm. You're working for a law firm. A local college has asked you to write an article for their magazine to help students gain an understanding of the law. And the article must include the following. So you've got 3 parts here to do, okay? So you must, use this as a heading. Firstly, you must explain how law is made in Parliament. So you need an explanation of how law is made in Parliament. So you need to make sure you are looking at that. That is your heading. You will write under that. Do not change the wording of it. Make sure you are just looking at that. And that would be looking in the element of looking at learning outcome 2. Okay, and that would be looking at how law is made in Parliament and how it passes it, go through the procedure of it. Okay, so that is learning outcome 2 that you need to be looking at. For the next bit, you've got 3 points to make: an overview of criminal law and civil law, And again, that would be looking at elements of learning outcome 1 and some parts of learning outcome 2 as well that you could look at. So you look at an overview of criminal law, what criminal law is, what is civil law, and how it differentiates. More in learning outcome 1 in regards to page 11, looking at the difference between it, looking at the introduction, the development of the law and how it was introduced. So that is your next heading, okay? Your third part of that in the report is to an overview of the court structure. So here you're looking at the overview of the court structure and you're looking at elements of how the court works and how the different courts work in regards to it, okay? So you need to be looking at that. That is all in regards to identifying the first task. So you need to have 3 parts in that. In the assignment guidance, you must show knowledge and understanding of your subject area. So you must answer them 3 parts. You must provide references to relevant cases and or legislation wherever appropriate. And you must be able to support answers and show evidence of wider reading, so extra reading. So for each part, because you've got 3 parts, you need it's a submission written in the Word format, and its recommended word limit is 1500, excluding any sort of diagrams, references, and appendices. And it's 3 parts to it. So make sure you do 500 words per part on task 1. So because you've got 3 parts here, use 500 words for each one to answer it with use of examples, supported by cases, supported by any statutes. And then learners are expected to adhere to the word count, which is a 10% leeway either way of this range is permitted before the assessor is instructed to stop reading any further. So make sure you are sticking to the requirements of that. Make sure you what the assignment is asking you, you are sticking to that rather than, you know, doing any elements yourself. So make sure you are sticking to that. And it's 500 words per part on it and how it works and how is the law made. So make sure you are sticking to that, okay? So that's task 1. Task 2 of 2 is AC 3.1 to 3.5. AC 4.1 to 4.6, and in the first one you're looking at describing the hierarchy of the courts and then examining the roles of the legal profession. So the assignment guidance and brief is the college has asked you to provide a document on the roles in the legal profession for their careers service, including qualifications needed and the role that they play. They are only asking for the text as they will then use to create a leaflet. So here you need to ensure that your leaflet includes, so it's a leaflet that you are producing, okay? You need to make sure it includes a section of solicitors. So looking at what solicitors do, what their job role is, what their qualifications are to become a solicitor, you know, or making sure that you look at their role, their training, their qualification, their role in practice, what work they do as a solicitor. And you will do the same for the barrister. So you would look at selection of barristers, their training, their qualification, what they do, their role in practice, you know, things like advocates for clients in higher courts, provides specialist legal opinions, you know, and works things like criminal, employment, any areas, what their process is of going through this training. You know, they have to complete a law degree, the same for barristers, solicitors, they have to complete a bar course and a pupillage. So you have to go through each one. So it's a detailed overview of each one. Then you would go on and do the same for, because it's a careers event, you need to detail about that. Selection section on judges. Here you would look at what judges, what their training is, and what qualifications they need to get into becoming a judge, what training they need, how are they appointed. You know, you need to look at that in detail, you know, make sure you look at their roles in practice, what they do, how they work in practice, who they work with, how judges work, you know, what different judges are in different courts, their appointment system, the types of judges as well, maybe look at that as well in regards to it. And so that there's 4 parts to this leaflet. The last part of it is an overview of who has responsibility for monitoring performance. So, you know, you're looking at the different types of bodies that deal with this. you know, the different types of work that deal with the different types of boards that deal with the work of each that responsibility. So, you know, you've got things like, you know, you're looking at the appointment and selection, you're looking at elements of if you become a barrister, you know, who will deal with that. So that's the bar training course you will do, and the bar training course, you'll be called to a bar. Grades A, no, you know, you need to look at the element of that, the bar standards board, the element of that, and for things like, you know, the legal ombudsman, the regulation by Solicitors Regulation Authority. You need to look at the legal services board, who is the one responsible for monitoring their roles. You know, it will be different boards and different bodies that will be monitoring it. So you need to look at the monitoring of them. So, you know, for the, like we said, for the regulation body is Bar Standards Award. Any complaints, legal ombudsman, office for legal complaints. For solicitors, you know, you've got this Solicitors Regulation Authority, SRA, that deal with the code of conduct. So you need to be looking at that. So there's 4 parts to task 2. And you will need to show, again, knowledge and understanding of the subject area. You need to provide references to relevant case law or any legislation wherever appropriate. And you need to be able to support answers and show evidence of the wider reading appropriate. The delivery of this is submission is in the form of a document written in Word format, and the recommended word limit is 1,000 words. Because there's 4 parts to it, if you go back up, there's 4 parts there. You must at least do 250 words maximum to answer the question for each part, excluding any diagrams, references, and appendices. And learners are expected to adhere to the word count, and you do have the 10% leeway either side of this range is permitted before the assessor is instructed to stop reading. So you need to make sure you are adhering to the, you know, what is expected of you when you are doing this assignment. You know, you are adhering to the guidance, any sort of recommendations, the word limits, any sort of, you know, referring to cases, statutes. You are answering what the question is asking you. So there's 2 tasks. Task 1 and task 2 both need to be in Word format, and the word count for task 1 is 1,500 words. The word count for task 2 is 1,000 words. For task 1, you have 3 parts, 3 parts to it. As we go back up, let's just have a look. Is it task 1 is 3 parts to it, and task 2 has 4 parts to it. So make sure you are sticking to what is asking you. Make sure you are reading what the question is asking you and not refraining and moving away from that. Referencing for all 2 tasks, you need to use and cite a range of case law, academic and reliable sources, and you need a comprehensive Harvard referencing style. Reference must be included in the end of the work. So you need to make sure you reference your work, make sure you reference where you're getting your work from, and you can use different referencing tools online for that. End of the assignment, make sure you do a conclusion. It could be a brief 4 or 5 line conclusion to what you've done in your assignment, reference list and bibliography as we mentioned. So here is more of the assignment guidance and support, which I'm going to go through. Make sure you start with an introduction and end with a conclusion, and brief one, okay? Make sure you are using Harvard system for referencing, and you can refer to online sites that may help you, such as Neil's Toolbox, which the link is there for. And there's other sites there that are Cite Me or any other sites that you can use that will generate it for you. I can show you at the end of it how you would use Neil's Toolbox quickly, so it identifies everything, so it's easier for you to use that. If you're using diagrams, please make sure you reference them accordingly. Make sure you have a bibliography reference list and it's in alphabetical order. Try to use more examples when explaining certain concepts. For example, when looking at theories or laws or case law, when using that, make sure you are using more examples. Make sure you are using assessment criteria as a heading. As I've mentioned in task 1, you've got 3 parts. Make sure you are using, when you write the first one, do not change the wording. Make sure you use that as a heading and write under that. Second one, use that as a heading and write under that. And third one, use that as a heading and write under that under task 1. And that is the answer. Make sure you do not change the wording. Same for task 2. There's 4 parts to it. Make sure you are using them as headings and not changing the wording. So you are writing about judges, barristers, solicitors, and make sure you are doing what it's asking you to do. You need to be referring to the indicative content all the time and checking your word count all the time. Make sure you do not go over your word count, and make sure you are, because you will get penalized for that. So make sure you're sticking to the word count. You do have the 10% leeway, which you can take on board as well. Give proper headings and subheadings. Make sure your document is looking presentable and professional. And any figures or tables, number them, okay? Following the numbering on the assignment presentation against the assignment brief, like I said, make sure you are doing task 1 and doing everything under task 1, and it's clearly identified for the assessor to read it. Make sure you ensure at least 12 to 15 references. References that is used, the system that is used is Harvard System of Referencing, which is used for all assignments in UK Varsity. Keep a check on your word count, and you have a 20% tolerance for AI. Please make sure you do not use AI to help you. You have 20% tolerance. It needs to be below that. And make sure you're taking that on board when doing your assignments, and do not be referring and putting everything in AI, because a lot of the slides will help you. A lot of additional reading and additional sources are available on Moodle for you. Word limit, again, it's 2,500 words. Remember, there's a grading in this. It's a pass or a refer. Do not use AI software to write the assignment, and there's only 20% tolerance allowed, else it will be considered malpractice and plagiarism, which I've identified to you. Please mention the grade you want to achieve in the unit if it's graded. So in this, according to this, it's only a pass or a refer. So you do not need to mention that. You just need to do all the requirements to get the pass. Follow the numbering on the assignment presentation as against the assignment brief. So make sure you are referring to, like I said, looking at what the assignment is asking you and making sure that you are numbering according to that, and making sure that, you know, you have put task 1 and going through each part individually rather than all together, because you need to make sure that you are referring to what the assignment brief is asking you. And I will show you the assignment brief. It's also available on Moodle for you as well. Any useful tips? Again, read the tasks carefully. I've always said that, and it's really important. Make sure you focus on the task and the command verbs. Broadly, as guidance command verbs, you can ensure tasks by writing, explain, define, describe 100 and 125 words, assess, examine, clarify, analyze 175 to 225 words, compare, contrast, critically evaluate 250 to 300 words. Harvard referencing needs to be Harvard System of Referencing, for example, the author, date, style, for example, Slack, Johnston, Brandon, Jones 2011 in the main text. In the reference towards the end, it comes as shown. Minimum of 6 references, books, journals, articles, websites have to be included in the bibliography. Give proper headings and subheadings. As I've said earlier, it's really important to make it presentable, your work, and make it professional. Avoid using, American English, use UK English grammar. Make sure there's a nice structure and flow. Check your work, check your grammar, that it's not American style. Word limit 2,500 with 10% leeway. Plagiarism tolerance on AI similarity below 20%. So make sure you are using that and not using AI all the time. Preliminary, you need to make sure you are not copying and pasting work, as it's plagiarism and would lead to academic misconduct, which you've read the policy and you've signed the declaration at the top. So you need to make sure you are not doing that. Make sure you reference all your sources. Make sure, again, you check your spelling and grammar, because it's so important. If you're referring to ebooks and journals on Moodle for this unit, there's so much available additional reading that you could go on to Moodle and refer to, and additional reading at the end of each learning outcome. They're all available and recorded on Moodle. If you are using a UK Varsity slides, then the referencing would be as below. MDT 2022 in the main text, and then in the bibliography, multidisciplinary teams. Learning outcome 1, slide number 2 to 10, UK Varsity, published on 15th of January 2023. And again, if you have any queries or any discussion, any queries or any questions around the assignment, you can email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk, and it's 2 weeks after this session that you would be able to submit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you the assignment brief, so you've got a little bit of idea what the assignment brief looks like when it comes to doing the assignment on Moodle, so you can download the assignment brief. Let me just share that with you. So this is the assignment brief. It looks like this, and it is on Moodle available for you. I've just taken a lot of the information off the assignment brief to put on the slides for you, so you have a little bit of an idea. So you've got the reference number for the unit itself, the level of the unit and the grading and the subject area. So you've got all the information there. Again, you've got the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria for learning outcome 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it gives you a refresher of what you would expected to do. You've got task 1 of 1, and it tells you the unit learning outcomes 1 and 2, and the task assessment criteria to be covered, which I put on the slides for you as well. The assignment brief is there, what it's expecting you to do. Write an article, again, on 3 parts of it here. So these are the 3 parts that you need to look at and answer, and make sure that you are reading that and answering that, and do not change the wording, and use each one and then write under it. So have that as a heading and then write the answer under it. Make sure you are sticking to the word limit, and make sure that you are providing cases and legislation wherever appropriate, and supporting your answers. For that one is 1,500 words. So for each one, you've got 3 parts, do 500 words, or and then the 10% over you can do as an overall. And make sure that you are using a range of cases and in reliable sources. Then we move on to task 2, which is which I've explained in more detail in the slides. The first is task 2, it's learning outcome 3, and it looks at the roles, the unit learning outcome 3 and 4, and then looks at the assessment criteria and what is expected of you. So you've got 4 parts for that, and it's each one do as a heading. So select section of solicitors. It all needs to be in a Word document, and make sure you are looking at, and it's 1,000 words. Okay, so that's with the 10% flexibility. So you have 1,000 words for doing all 4, so 250 words for each one. And make sure you are looking at what you're supposed to answer. Read the question, what it's asking you, because it's a careers event. Make sure you are talking about the roles of the legal profession, their training, what qualifications they needed, and what they do and their role they play within society. So solicitors, what they do on a day-to-day basis. Make sure you are looking at their requirements and their roles within the legal profession, what training, what qualifications they need. Okay, so you need to be able to reference, as it said, Harvard referencing system, and this is what the assignment brief looks like, and it's on Moodle available for you. If you want to go on to have a look, to download it. The everything that's been on the slides is been taken off the assignment brief, so I've just put everything on there. The module specification, again, is also available on Moodle for you. I'll also show you how to do some of the references so that you're able to identify if you struggle with any sort of referencing. The referencing system used for UK Varsity is the Harvard system of referencing. So let me just go on to the actual how to get onto Harvard system, so you've got a little bit of an idea. So, and this is something that some people will use to help them bring up the reference or make the reference. Okay, so if you have a look at this, it is there. So this is the toolbox. It's called Neil's Toolbox, and it's quite a good generator. So it helps you generate a type of reference. So you can reference a book, a magazine, end of a book, edited book, ebooks, emails, journals, websites. It references everything, but we'll reference the book, so I'll give you a little bit of an idea of how it references. So the book title, it could be legal system. Okay, this is just an example of how it's done. Okay, so you've got a little bit of an idea. The author could be Scott J. The publisher, let's say Peacock, just an example. The place it was published, Bristol. And the year of publication may be 2023. And maybe so you can scroll down and have a look at the edition. So it could be the 8th edition. So what you would then do is you would press this generate reference. Once you go to generate reference, it's actually done it for you. And then it says, here is your reference, copy and paste this into your bibliography section. Make sure that it's alphabetically done and in your bibliography section. So it puts all the docs and the commas in the right place for you and structures it the way it should. So it looks Scott J 2023 Legal System 8th edition Bristol and Peacock. So you can just copy and paste that into your bibliography at the end of your assignment. So you could use it for any sort of websites, emails, anything you want to do. And there's other tools that you could use for this. This is not the only thing that you could use, but it will help you and support you in identifying using Harvard's system of referencing for all your assignments. So please have a look at that. Also, again, towards the end, let me just share this again. Make sure, again, you are sticking to the 2 tasks and making sure you're reading everything. Make sure you are checking your grammar and the structure of your work. Make sure also if you have any queries or any questions about the assignment, email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. Submission of the assignment is to be done on learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. And assignment submission is after 2 weeks of completion of the unit. So now the unit has been completed. We've done learning outcome 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and they're all recorded and on Moodle for you to go on. You can now get on with the assignment and use the learning outcomes to help support you. And this is also recorded, the assignment discussion, which will be available on Moodle for you. Thank you for attending today's session, and good luck with getting on with the assignment. Thank you.